It takes a long time to become really, really great at something. And I think that's the part that's one of the parts, I guess, that I was willing to do, was that I wanted to be there for a long time. And I knew that I would have to continue to grow, continue to find ways to alter my performance and my game style and, move with the times.
Welcome to the Get Invested podcast, where we share great conversations with experts from all walks of life to uncover their secret know-how on where they invest their time, their skills and their money, and the benefits that this has created. You see, the truth is that everyone invests. Every minute of every day, we're investing our time, our skills, our energy and our money in something. Some of us are investing consciously, some unconsciously, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, and sometimes for no impact. Get Invested will help you to start living by design, not by default. I'm going to help you to make it happen, not let it happen. You will hear the top tips on how you can live with conscious intent so that you can live more, work less, and leave a living legacy by investing now. Listen to the show to discover the top tips on how to get started, make the most of your investment journey, and ultimately to be living your dream, not someone else's. More episodes can be found on iTunes or at bushymartin.com.au/get invested. Thanks for listening, and now let's get invested. Hi, freedom fighters. Well, you're really in for an absolutely awesome treat today with another great chat with a sporting icon. And to set the scene, I want to start by asking you some really challenging questions. What does success mean to you? How do you define it and measure it? Is it a defining result at the end of a destination, or is it your performance over the entire journey? Is success just a fleeting moment in time, or performance over a period of time? Does it rely totally on achieving your goal, or does it depend on your performance over the entire journey? Is perfect performance throughout the only acceptable success outcome? Is it just about winning and losing, or how you play the game of life and how you've performed for the long term? Do you celebrate the 99% that you get right, or criticise the 1% that you get wrong? Now, this strive for constant perfection is a two-edged sword. It can be a comfort or a curse. Now, I suggest it's not one or the other, but a balanced mixture of both that breeds sustainable and enduring success. Now, the dictionary defines success as the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. Now, to me, this can sound very event, outcome and time-based, but again, it depends on what your aim or your purpose is. Now, today's world is full of one-hit wonders and overnight successes. But to me, true success is consistent high performance over the long haul. It's about playing the long game well over many seasons, not just winning one grand final or a gold medal. So I prefer a different definition. One of the late great American basketball coaches, John Wooden, defined success this way. Success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of the self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming. So success requires nothing more or less than your maximum effort. I've always said that the only person you need to compare yourself with is you yesterday. If every single day you're learning and getting better, then to me, you're successful. Just 1% improvement every day means you're 356% better at the end of the year. Now, by any measure, that's massive success. Now, this is not reliant on the result or the outcome, but more around whether you know in your heart that you've given your absolute best. This means measuring success based on your internal compass, not an external magnifying glass. So for me, success should only ever be how you define it. It isn't just defined in monetary terms. It isn't dependent on the external outcome, and it isn't earned through the acceptance of others. So are you successful? Can you honestly look yourself in the mirror every night and say that you're better today than you were yesterday? Have you given your absolute best today? And how are you going to go tomorrow? Who are you really when no one else is watching? Now, this is much easier to say than do, as our fame-focused world judges everyone on instant external results now. That's today. The past and the future just don't seem to count. You're either a winner or a loser based on today's outcome. Yes, it's great to enjoy the adulation of the adoring crowds when you win. Yes, it's great for the ego. But if you rely on this measure for your success, then the flip side, losing, can be devastating, demoralising and debilitating. It's a high-pressure noose around your neck where you're constantly standing on your tippy toes just to keep breathing. Relaxing and losing is just not an option. And the funny thing is that we currently live in a world of uncompromising high expectations. We expect the very best from everyone else, except, of course, ourselves. And this is never more pronounced than with our sporting heroes. We expect of them what we're not capable of producing ourselves. And that means winning all the time, every time. Perfection is the minimum expectation. Anything less is a failure. In light of the heaviness of our national sporting heroes' halos, I feel a lot of sympathy for them. Theirs is a very heavy cross to bear. And this is why today's very special guest is such a true living legend and the epitome of real sustainable success. Against this background of constant pressure and high expectation, he's a 4 times Olympic athlete and has played at the elite international level for over 15 years in an extremely physically, mentally and emotionally demanding sport that provides very little financial support nor material reward. Enduring success in this sport is purely about the level of dedication to and the love for the game. I'm talking, of course, about my favourite sport, field hockey, the game that I continue to play after nearly 5 decades. And I'm talking, of course, about one of the game's best, hardest working and highest rewarded players, Mark Knowles. Let me give you a brief rundown on his long list of achievements. Over his extended era of world domination on the international hockey stage, from 2003 through to 2018, where he was instrumental in winning 13 international gold medals, 2 silver medals and 2 bronze medals. He played in 4 consecutive Olympic Games campaigns. At just 20 years of age, he was the youngest in the team to win Australia's first ever hockey gold medal, and he went on to collect 2 more Olympic bronze medals with the Kookaburras. He's got 4 Commonwealth Games gold medals. He's won 2 World Cups, 2 World League final gold medals, 4 World Champions trophies. In 2007, he won the World's Best Young Player Award. He was named the 2014 World Player of the Year. He was captain of the Australian National Kookaburras side for 4 years from 2014 until his retirement in 2018. He enjoyed 324 Australian appearances, the 3rd highest in Australian history. In 2005, he was awarded an OAM Order of Australia medal, and he crowned the final climax of his career with his recognition as the 2018 Commonwealth Games opening ceremony flag bearer. Now, what's interesting here is that there were periods during his ascendancy that the Kookaburras won 179 games and only lost 8. During this time, however, out of 4 Olympic Games gold medal campaigns, they achieved 1 and lost 3. So were they successful? It depends on how you look at success. Now, coming back to Mark, to see a boy from the Queensland Sticks even get to the national team is a massive achievement. But to stay at that demanding elite level for so long, and excuse the bad pun, is a mark of true champion. But what I really love and admire about Knowlesy is his humble, down-to-earth country boy approach, his unadorned passion, and his commitment to helping others to achieve their best. So how did he do it? What separates him from all the others? What does it take to survive, thrive and endure in such a totally taxing environment? And interestingly, what part has investing in property contributed to his journey so far? How can you learn from him and apply his success formula to achieve your goals and enjoy your definition of success? Now, as they say, success leaves clues. And with Knowles' sustained success over so many years, he leaves a lot of them. And he shares a lot of them in our great chat today. So please enjoy another of my very humble heroes, Mark Knowles. Welcome back, Freedom Fighters, and today we're in for another really special treat with a 4 times Olympian athlete. Now, for anyone who knows me, you'll know that I'm an absolute hockey tragic and still playing after 47 years, and I'll hit the big 800 game mark at the end of this season. So one of the world greats who continues to inspire and motivate me, particularly over the last 15 or so years, with both his on-field accolades as well as his humble off-field character, is today's very special guest, Mark Knowles. So welcome to Get Invested, Mark.
Thanks, Bushy. Thanks very much for having me.
Mate, really looking forward to deep dive. It's a humbling experience for me, mate. You've been one of my unsung heroes for a long time, ever since you hit the Olympics back in 2004. So really keen to talk it through. But for those who don't know you, and you'd have to be living under a rock if you haven't heard of Mark Knowles, but for those that don't, can you just give us a bit of a rundown on who you are, what you do and where you're currently heading, mate?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I'm a country boy from Rockhampton, central Queensland. Grew up there, playing hockey, doing all sports. My mum and dad both played for Queensland and Tasmania in state hockey. Older brother, older sister, younger sister who all played hockey. And I guess one of the things that I absolutely loved about growing up in Rockhampton was the ease of facilities, the access that we're able to have, the ability to try multiple sports and different things, and obviously just having so many friends who were very much outdoor kids. I guess that in some ways shaped the person who I was really early on. And I think you're influenced by people who are normally who are your parents, but also who you hang around or your families hang around. And for me, that Rockhampton network, who I'm still so close to, provided that for me. And finished year 12 in Rockhampton in 2001 and got a Queensland Academy of Sports scholarship to move to Brisbane for hockey. Yeah. Moved in 2000 and straight after year one, spent the year in 2002 in Brisbane living with my uncle and auntie. And then I was, extremely fortunate, lucky, privileged to be called into the national program as a pretty raw 18-year-old kid. Moved to Perth at the start of 2003. Had some quite big challenges early on in 2003 when I first moved to Perth, which we might get into. But I guess that early part of seeing or being or trying to be an elite athlete was what I dreamt of as a kid. Absolutely, it was what I wanted to do, was to be a hockey player, but it also showed me how tough sport can be and how tough athletes need to be at different times to get through different challenges. Yeah. So it was really nice to, get through some of that, to win Olympic gold in 2004 and then to go on and play at 3 other Olympics after that, 4 Commonwealth Games gold medals, and just to be part of a highly successful and extremely high-performing national sporting team was, as I said, something that I I honestly really wanted to do. I was driven to do that, and I wanted to work hard to do that, but something I never thought I'd be able to do as a country kid from Rockhampton. So
yeah, well, let's jumping back right in there, mate. You know, folks are obviously good hockey players in their own right, and you've got some brothers and sisters who also played the game. What was the difference between yourself and your brothers and sisters then in relation to you being recognised early with the potential to go to the top level?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm not sure. If you ask my parents, it'd probably be fanaticism. They said that I'm very much like my 7-year-old now, just a sports fanatic. Wanted to try absolutely everything. Wanted to be outdoors all the time. I guess hockey, as I touched on earlier, hockey was something that I was around all the time because of mum and dad and my family, but it was also something that I became more and more attracted to and addicted to, I guess. The better I got at it, the more I learnt, the more opportunities I had. So, yeah, I am a sports tragic. Hockey was one of the big sports, or the only sports in Rockhampton, along with rugby league in country Queensland and cricket in the summer, obviously. So I guess in some ways I became good at it, but it was also there in front of my eyes every day.
Yeah, okay. And I guess the old Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours routine, it sounds to me like you were getting your 10,000 in very early, and you probably spent every day with a stick in your hand doing all the skill bits and in the backyard and down at the pitch. Is that a fair read of what was happening at the time? Yeah, that's a very
fair reflection. I think, I had other things that were really beneficial for my growth as a young boy and as a young athlete. We grew up on a property, couple of acres. Mum and dad put down a tennis court, and they had to make it a sand-based field for the tennis court. But I think they understood what the real reason for the sand-based court was when it became so much more of a hockey field. So I had things that really, I think, benefited my growth as a hockey player. And yes, I tried multiple sports. I was very active and wanted to give everything a go. And I think probably playing multiple sports and trying different things, I think, has helped me become a far more balanced athlete and balanced hockey player. But some of those things, access to facilities, my parents being, the president of my club, the president of Rocky Hockey, growing up on a property with a sand-based turf, as a tennis court, those things really helped me.
Yeah, and that fanaticism, is that something that's just always been inherent? Are you just a born perfectionist who's just got to go to the nth degree if you're going to do anything? Is that who you are?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And the part, I guess, that makes me as proud as any other things are when people talk about me, and I'm glad that they say it, because it is, I think, something that's allowed me to go to the next level and be, a true high-performance athlete. I absolutely love the hard work. I absolutely loved the discipline of training hard and living a lifestyle that would allow me to be an elite athlete. I absolutely loved doing extra training, and I never really thought that was wasn't what was normal. I just thought that's what you should do, or that's what most people would do if they want to play at the Olympics or play for their country or be the best player in the world, or, there were things there that throughout my journey I've seen aren't as normal for other players, aren't as normal for other people. But I honestly believed, and I think that's probably a bit of the country boy coming out in me, is I saw my parents working hard every single day, and I absolutely loved that part of being an elite athlete, the hard work and the dedication, the determination, the discipline required. So that part, I think, has allowed me to be the person and be that athlete that I really wanted to be.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And it's the corollary of that, I guess, is that it's that determination, that persistence, that passion and the patience that goes with that has contributed to your early success, but then your sustained success, I'm guessing. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. And I guess the part for me very early on that I knew was that I didn't want to play just a couple of games for Australia. You know, my idols and the people who I looked up to as that, as that teenager were the players who'd played at multiple games and had multiple levels of success. And I think that I really went into wanting to be an elite athlete for the long haul. And, you know, I absolutely love talking to guys, even in the national program now, who they're 23 years old and they tell me that, you know, they want to be the best player in the world and how can they do that? And I say to myself, or I say to them, that it's okay for it to take time. I won the World Player of the Year award when I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
Jamie Dwyer won the last World Player of the Year of his 5 when he was 32.
Yeah.
So it takes a long time to become really, really great at something. And I think that's the part that's one of the parts, I guess, that I was willing to do, was that I wanted to be there for a long time. And I knew that I would have to continue to grow, continue to find ways to alter my performance and my game style and, you know, move with the times. And I think moving with the times isn't just the hockey skills, that's personality traits of different generations and different coaches and different styles and different countries. And that part I think, you know, allowed me to stay in the game and, you know, have that longevity and that success for a period of time.
I think sort of underlying all of that, what I love about what I'm hearing there, Knowlesy, is that you started with the vision of accepting that success was a long-term journey rather than an overnight exercise. And if you start with that mindset, then you embrace time as your friend to help you along that journey rather than see it as the enemy that's constantly preventing you from enjoying the limelight. Is that a fair?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and that was, you know, in my face really early on by some just amazing coaches and mentors, some amazing players in the national program and even in a Queensland program, that when I came in, these were guys who'd been there for a long period of time, and they talked to me about how great I'm going or training now, but they said that right now isn't the focus. Right now isn't the everything. It is going to take time, and you just got to continue to grow. And, you know, when you're 22, you're going to be good. When you're 23, you're hopefully going to be better. When you get to 25 and 26 and you're in good physical shape, you learn more about leadership. And when you get into a leadership position, you learn more about leadership groups. And, you know, when you've been there for a while, you learn more about your body and different ways to speak to people. So, as you said, I was never really scared of it taking time. And I knew that I'd become really great at one thing, and there'd always be something else that I could become better at. And I guess I had that mindset. So when I hit some of those roadblocks and when some of those, those times of poor performance by myself, or, you know, where I didn't feel like I was at my best, those times were a bit easier to get over because I knew that this was going to happen sooner or later. I was going to hit a stumbling block, but I was always going to try and keep moving.
Well, let's dig into some of those, maybe, because it's often the obstacles that bring out the best in us and the biggest learning opportunities to take us to the next level. I'll drill into a couple that I'm probably aware of, but I'll be probably more interested in those that you self-reflect on as those opportunities. And, you know, the first obvious one for me is when you managed to not only break your ankle once but twice within 4 months when you started in Perth. That must have been pretty daunting for someone, an 18-year-old that was keen to impress. Talk us about that time. How did it happen? What did you work through, and what were your take-homes from that early period?
Yeah, it was extremely tough. So for people who don't know, and it was a big challenge, but my first day, my dream had come true, or what I felt my dream had come true, was to be picked and to play for the Australian men's hockey team. The first day that I was in Perth, I broke my ankle. National League final, about 15 minutes to go in the final, I stood on a guy's stick and broke my ankle. I guess for me, I was really unsure. I was really unprepared because I had been that country kid from Rocky who very few things had gone wrong in my life.
Yeah.
And I was unsure of how to deal with that. But I guess what I tried to do was I tried to think about anything that could be a positive and what I could get out of it. And for me, the biggest thing was that I needed to, or I got a chance to just watch how the Kookaburras trained as senior international men. I got to watch them for 4 months, and I didn't have to compete against them. And I learnt a lot about the requirements of being an elite level, preparation, planning, performance, recovery, team meetings without actually having to be involved in it. And I probably wasn't ready. When I look back, I probably think that it was the best blessing that I ever got. Was I was not prepared for what they were doing. And I may have been prepared in time, but out of such a low of breaking my ankle that first day, 4 months later when I felt ready to go, I actually felt like I understood what was required. That first day back at training in mid-July, 4 months later, 16 weeks, I'd done all of my rehab, and 5 minutes to go in my first session back, I broke my ankle again. And I guess that's when it became harder, because I thought finally I was ready. I'd done that rehab. I'd watched for a period of time. I thought to myself, now I'm ready, and straight back in a cast again for another 10 weeks. So that was a big challenge for me.
It would have been more a mental challenge than a physical, because you knew what you needed to do to get back physically. Mentally, how did you sustain yourself during that time, mate?
Oh, I think the part that helped me most was I actually have never been afraid to ask for help. I've never been afraid really to ask silly questions and to lean on people. And I guess my that first kind of 6, 7, 8 months of being out injured, it just gave me a chance to ask questions that probably people hadn't asked before. But it also, I think, earned me a lot of trust and earned me a lot of respect that I was willing to, after such lows as a very, very young 19-year-old, I just turned 19.
Yeah.
I guess the guys in the team and the coaches and the support staff, I guess, understood how much I did really want it. And when I asked those questions and when I wanted more support and when I needed help and when I wanted to learn more, even though I was injured, I think they understood that I was a player who was willing to spend that time to actually learn the process and be involved, even if I couldn't train every day. And I guess when I got into 2004, even as a very, very, very raw kid who hadn't played a game, I felt like I'd had 12 months of learning and 12 months of growth and 12 months of relationship building, even though I hadn't, hit the ball in the goal or made any tackles.
Yeah.
And that gave me a lot of confidence for myself, but I think also gave the program confidence that I was willing to buy into that process.
I think you've touched on a really good point there, the importance of relationships in any success, because it's that support group, it's the respect that you gain from others, is what you learn from others, and that can then propel you to do great things. Clearly, during that quite challenging personal period, your ability to connect with the coaching team, the other players and whatnot, when you're not actually running around with a stick, must have been very good for you, mate.
Yeah, it was, and I think in some ways it gave those national coaches and selectors and people in the program the confidence, to give me another go, because it would have been very easy, and this is why I have so much respect for Barry Dancer as a coach. It would have been so easy to get rid of that 19-year-old kid who hadn't played a single game, and we're 6 months out from the Athens Olympics. It's not a time where you normally take many risks in high performance sport, and I think for Barry to be able to see the work that I did put in that 12 months and to see that I was willing to do some of that extra work, I think probably gave them more confidence to give me an opportunity at the start of 2004 and then to pick me in that Olympic squad, because I've seen it numerous times, is in that period leading up, 12 to 18 months out from the Olympics or the World Cups or the Commonwealth Games, you take some risks with selections, and that could be to give more experienced older guys a rest. It could be to see what else is out there, but very rarely in that period close to a major do you take many selection risks. And I was one of those risks. I honestly see that now as a far more experienced player and as a leader who went through some selection meetings. I see that was a risk to pick a 19-year-old kid with not a single game experience in an Olympic squad of 24. Where there's not many free spots, there's not many giveaways that are there and available. So that gave me so much confidence.
Yeah, well, it says a lot about Brian's insight in seeing the potential that you could bring through your hard work ethic. Clearly, now I mean you've sort of gone from broken ankles to having a gold medal around your neck in 36 games in a very short period of time, and really, I guess, broken the curse of the Kookaburras, who for decades had been, right up there as a leading team around the world, but just couldn't crack the curse of the Olympic medals. In a way, getting such early success would have had its challenges, because I'm guessing that there was probably then an expectation of yourself and the rest that you just continue to do the same. Talk to me a bit about that, because the results in the following Olympics didn't sort of match that 2004 promise. What did that do to yourself, the team, and the crew in terms of working through that?
I think I'm just going to touch on very quickly one lesson that I learnt as a 20-year-old kid, and it was probably one of the most significant messages in a 1 or 2 word sentence that I've ever received. And it was in 2004, I made the Olympic team, or the Olympic team was announced, and we got our uniform. And I was buzzing. There was no question about it. I was a 20-year-old kid from Rocky. 2 years ago, I was doing year 12 in country Queensland, and I was floating. I was buzzing, and we got our Olympic uniforms. And just really quickly, I really, I feel it's a message that needs to be shared. I was running around like crazy with my tracksuit, and I was like, far out, boys, look at this, I got an Olympic tracksuit. I was on the phone to mum and dad, and the 3 leaders in the team came up to me just really quietly, not in front of anyone, not with a raised voice, just really calm in the corner, and they said, hey mate, like, that looks bloody good on you, but we don't play for the Australian men's hockey team for the tracksuit, we play for the medal. And it snapped my mentality around just wanting to be there, or from just wanting to be there and be an Olympian to wanting to be a winner. And with only being around that group of guys, and playing with them for 4 months before I made the team, it was one of the most powerful messages that I've ever received. And it wasn't yelled, it wasn't screamed, it wasn't put up on a whiteboard. It was just really quietly in the corner, but it was one of the things that completely changed my mentality early on about the Australian men's hockey team. That, the tracksuit's important and being an Olympian's important, but we wanted so much more as a group. And I guess, yes, we got that success then, but I love when you talk about sustained success. Because it was the biggest thing that our group talked about. After 2004. There was an absolute desire and a desperation around our group that just winning that Olympics wasn't good enough. And it was driven by Barry Dancer and Colin Batch, the coaches, but the players really bought into it, that we wanted more. And in 2005, we played 29 games and we only lost once. We won the Champions Trophy, for the first time in a number of years. 3 months later, we won the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne without dropping a game. So we were really moving. And when you talk about that sustained success, we didn't get it, but it was constantly on the radar of our group. And you know, elite sport, elite business, for the people out there in business or large corporations, the areas of success and failure are so small, and that's what happened to us in Beijing 4 years later. We were the number one team in the world. We were by far the best team in the world, but we were 5% off, maybe not even 5% off in Olympic semi-final, and suddenly 4 years of hard work is gone. And that was really tough. That was an extremely tough period for us, because we were far better in 2008 probably than we were in 2004. And we got a bronze, not a gold.
How did that affect yourself and the team and the coaching squad at that time? Because it's, I guess, the challenge for someone like me looking in from the outside, Mark, I measure success based on not just one event, but repeated behaviours over a period of time. And for me, yourself and the team that you've been playing in over that 15-odd years is right up there in terms of one of the most successful, consistent teams that you're ever going to see in any sport. So for me, you have been successful because I guess there's so much pinpoint precision on success for a particular event. And if that then isn't achieved because that's what's been the vision, then the psychological letdown must be enormous. Talk us through.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, 2008, that performance in Beijing really hurt myself and a lot of the other guys in the team. I think probably because we knew we were better than what we gave in that semi-final. The other part that I guess it hurt, really, it cut a lot of us deep, was that it was the end of an era for a certain group of those guys. You know, we had multiple retirements. Barry Dancer left as coach. He was finished after that. Colin Batch, our assistant, went to Europe. So that really, it was the end of an era, and a pretty good era, as you said. And I think that, for me, was the hardest part by far of my international career. And I guess the reasons was that I was a 24-year-old kid. I absolutely thought I was better than I really was. I opened at the start talking about young athletes telling me they want to be the best player in the world when they're 23, 24, because that was me. And I took it personally, what happened, you know, how I didn't perform, how my teammates didn't perform, you know, things that went wrong, lack of connections. And I honestly believe that, you know, we thought we were a little bit better than what we were. And it showcased to me that you have to be at your best in those big moments, and we weren't. I guess the way that I got away from hockey and my get out, my type of refresh, was that I went and played in Europe. I felt like I needed to get away from that playing group for a little bit. You know, It's been 4 years solid, 2 Olympic campaigns, a Commonwealth Games, a World Cup final defeat as well. So I chose to take up a professional contract over in Europe. And for me, it was really the ability to get away with my partner, my wife now, Kel. I felt like we just needed some time to build our relationship. I felt like I needed a different spark in terms of the people that I played and trained with. I felt like I needed some different coaching from different people in Europe, and really it was a way for me to get away from the national program in Perth. And that's not because I didn't love it. That's just because I needed something different. And that was really a moment that helped me, definitely. I got away from the national program in Perth for those 8 months and came back to Rick Charlesworth being our coach, and I had this renewed vigor. I wanted to be with Rick. I wanted to learn about this guy. I wanted to play and be part of this new team. So that was a really important time for me as a 24-year-old, because I felt bad for leaving the national program. I felt bad being one of those guys who goes to Europe and leaves the national program. But I honestly think that for my life, for my relationships, and for my, ability to contribute fully, I needed to get away.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's something that, and again, this is from someone uneducated on the outside, yes, big hockey fan, but have no idea about the intimacies of what was happening with the dynamics of the team over the period you've been playing. But an observation which might be completely off kilter, but it strikes me that yourself and the likes of Rick Charlesworth and the other players who bought into that high performance vision, being perfectionists means that you are never satisfied, which means that you might get 99% of something right, but you'll flog yourself for the 1% that you got wrong. And then the flip side of that is that an extremely high expectation that you place on yourself and the rest of the team means that in those high expectation games, the big games, the Olympic finals and whatnot, you're actually in a battle with yourself. And that internal pressure that you've applied to yourself and the expectation of the result can make the difference in relation to taking the free-flowing nature of the game away and putting yourself in a position where another opposition who's on a good day might just take the flag. Am I reading that wrongly? What's your thoughts around that?
No, absolutely, I agree. That team in 2008, I think most of the guys would be quite open with saying we beat ourselves in that Olympic semi. And we knew we were the best team by far. We played that Spanish team 5 weeks before the Olympics in the Champions Trophy final, which is the top 6 teams in the world. We played them, our best team versus their best team, and we beat them 4-0 in the Champions Trophy final 5 weeks before the Olympics. 5 weeks later, we just tightened up. We lost connection with each other. We thought about losing more than taking the game on. We didn't want the ball when in every other game for 4 years we'd wanted that ball. So we really let ourselves down in that game. And that was one of the things that, I guess certainly I struggled with, was that how did that, why did I do that? Why tighten up in a game like that? We were winning 2-0 with 20 minutes to go in an Olympic semi-final, and we were telling ourselves basically that we weren't going to win that game. And that's the complete wrong mentality. And that, without dwelling on that too much, but that was one of the biggest things that Rick changed. He said, when he came in, Rick was so much about us. He was so much about just listen to what I say, do what I say, and we will win. And he didn't, there wasn't any negative talk. Rick had so much self-belief that just by listening and buying into what he thought was going to work, we kind of talked ourselves into winning. Multiple games. And I mean, from 2009, start of 2009, when Rick took over, till that Olympic semi in 2012, where the result happened again, we played 179 games and we only lost 9 times, I think, in 4 years. But one of those games was the Olympic semi-final. And we played in 12 finals through Commonwealth Games, World Cups, Champions Trophies in those 4 years, and we lost one final. And that was the Olympic semi again in 2012. Different circumstances, because we played a German team that was absolutely elite as well. And we didn't play our best, but we were beaten by one of the greatest teams that I've ever played against or seen.
Right.
So different circumstances, but the same result, unfortunately.
But while no one would say it at the time, being beaten by a superior team is very different to we let ourselves down. We didn't lose the game. We were beaten by a better opposition. Yeah,
and that's why I'm really open when I talk to people about that. I say that not every result means the performance was the same. When I talk about these things to young players, and I put the 2 photos up, I say, what's this? And they say, that's bronze in 2008, and that's a bronze. And I say, yeah, I know, but do you want me to explain how different those two performances were? I say sometimes you can win a game and you can play poorly, and sometimes you win a game and you're amazing. So, it's really, that was one of the biggest learnings for me, was that not every result means the same thing. And I guess I am a perfectionist. I did always want more and better out of myself and my teammates, but I had to also really come to terms that things are different at different times.
The reason I'm interested in the perfectionist challenge is that it's something that I suffer from myself, Knowlesy, and I find myself in I play in a district club exercise, so not quite the same level as you've been used to, but even in that exercise, you get into a final and you've been playing well all season, and you just apply this pressure to yourself that you've used the right words, you suddenly tighten up where normally it'd be free flowing, and it's I guess being nearly 60 now, what I've learnt after many challenges in that is that if my preparation is good enough, I can just relax on the day, and the work that I've already done is going to carry me there, and I could start to enjoy the game more and focus less on the result and more on just contributing to the team play.
Absolutely.
Has that been, obviously with much more intense pressure, has that been a similar exercise for yourself over the years?
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that we're constantly trying to work with or work in as the national program is that you don't win or lose just on the day. We talk about the Olympic preparation. We say that we're preparing, and the guys preparing now, and the Hockeyroos preparing now over at the Pro League. Like, they're in preparation now for the Olympics next year. You don't just rock up at a major event or a grand final day or a big speech, or a conference where you're presenting. You don't just turn up and perform, right there. Has gone in, and we talk so much around our training ethic and our commitment to training and our desire to be better in the training environment in the lead up is actually what helps those big games. And that's why we make the environment so competitive, because you can't just turn it on when you get to the Olympics. You can't just suddenly play well on semi-final day. It's the training that you've done, and that's been one of the biggest positives, I think, of our national project. We do on a daily basis helps in performance, and probably why, without winning multiple gold medals, has kept the national team at the top of the world rankings. We've been the top 3 teams in the world for the last 37 years. I played in the national team for 15 years, and for 12 and a half of those years, we were the number 1 team in the world.
Yeah.
Yet we only won 1 Olympic gold medal. See, I still class that time, for me, as hard as it was losing those matches, I still classed us as an absolute elite high performance team.
Likewise, as I say, I don't say this lightly. I think you've been a pivotal member in one of the best performing international teams of all time, because you look at your record over the period, not just those 3 or 4 events. So, and that's where I think people's attitudes focus on the sort of overall success rather than just pinpointing particular days or times, and the sort of media focus that goes with that, then people would look at things a little bit differently. So, mate, that's awesome.
And it's also why we work with the players constantly. That one moment shouldn't be your whole life. Whether you win an Olympic gold medal or whether you lose an Olympic gold medal and win a bronze, that's not what's going to take you through your life. We're working with athletes more and more now, and I know it took me such a long time, but we have to become Mark Knowles, who plays hockey, not Mark Knowles, the hockey player, because every single up and down if you are only an athlete or only a hockey player, in my instance, every single up and every single down will be far higher and far lower than they really need to be. And I guess, that's an important part about relationships and working environment and balance in our lives and my kids. It took me a while, but even, at the end of my career, I became a far better winner and a far better loser because I had so much more in my life.
Yeah, I love that. So you're putting hockey in a box rather than it being you. It's just something that you do, and it's one of the boxes of multiple boxes that are part of the tapestry of your overall life, which certainly puts a completely different perspective on how you look at winning and losing.
It is, and I wanted to be absolutely amazing as a hockey player, but I also want to have an amazing relationship with my wife and kids. I also want a career. I also wanted to work hard in the community engagement, work with kids on developing a next generation. Yes, I could do that as an elite hockey player, but I could also do that just as a person.
Yeah, awesome, man. I'm going to touch on a couple of those things, particularly relationship with Kelly and the family support in a minute. But what I'd also like you to just elaborate on, because I just don't think any of us, me included, understands just how difficult your daily regime is when you're preparing for those elite international events that you've played in for so long. Are you able to share with us what a typical day and a week actually looks like? So what are you doing? What are you eating or not eating? I just don't think any of us appreciate just the discipline and determination that goes with the work that you do in that regard to make it all happen.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of it. So I'll put it just really quickly in two different periods, because for the people who don't understand, hockey's not, the most high profile or highly paid sport. So in a non-Olympic year, so for the 3 years that aren't an Olympic year, we're a sport that's based around allowing our players to, have other interests and other things to support them. So guys will work, guys will study, guys will play in Europe. So the training times are 6:30 in the morning till 9 a.m. and then we'll be back at hockey 4:30 till 7, and that allows players to work or study during the day. So that's a every day. So we do 6 days a week. We always have Sundays off, but you sometimes may play a club game on a Sunday. But it's 6 days of national team training, Monday to Saturday. In the Olympic year, it changes. So we go to more of a full-time program. Definitely not full-time in terms of how it's paid, but more full-time in terms of the requirements. So you're training more during the days to allow players to go home at nights with their kids. There is some increased funding around, medal incentive schemes and direct athlete support from the government and Hockey Australia's contribution, but it's still not, it's not a lot. But certainly, I think one of the things that makes hockey the sport it is for the players is that we come into the game, as unfortunate as this is and as hard as this is for me to talk about, we come into the game knowing that we are not going to make a living out of the sport. Yeah. And I guess why I raise that point and why I tell people that is because what we get out of that is 27 guys and 27 girls who are in the national programs striving to be the best team in the world because they absolutely want to do it. Not because they get performance benefits or bonuses, not because they're going to earn a six fact, not because they get any extra large amounts of funding. So we get a group of people who really are desperate to be there, and it's not because of anything apart from them wanting to be an elite athlete or because they've done it their whole life. So that's a really great part of our sport. It's an unfortunate part that we are doing it like that, but it's also the landscape that we live in. And I think it's a massive benefit
absolutely.
for the players.
And I'd sort of, again, looking from the outside in, I've often questioned how have the Kookaburras and the Hockeyroos managed to dominate the sport at the very top level for so long Well, if you've got a bunch of people who are there for the only reason they want to achieve it in elite sport, and they all share that vision, then that energy, that passion is going to carry far more than other areas of the globe where it may be perceived more as a job almost. Would I be right in saying that?
No, absolutely, yeah. I think that's really helped our players, and it's difficult because, you know, when you're trying to be elite, of course, you want more. You want more money, you want more resources, you want more time off, you want more sponsors, you want more of everything. But we've come, I think, to the realisation that, yes, we're trying, yes, they're trying, yes, we hope it happens, but it's not there right now, so just get stuck in.
Yeah.
So that's something that's part of hockey as a sport. I think the other things that you talked around about preparation, recovery, nutrition. To be an elite athlete, you have to do a lot right. One of the parts, I think that, and I'll speak personally on a men's hockey side only. I'm not going to touch on the women because I just don't know enough about the Hockeyroos program and what their requirements are. But one of the things that the men's program have done really well is there's mostly self-determination. So we get guidelines of what the best things to eat, what's the best to drink after a performance, what's the best time to go to bed, what's the best amount of sleep you should have to perform at your best, but we don't get told what to do.
Yeah, okay.
So there is that self-determination there, that all of the support that you need for these things is available, you know, recovery and stretching and rolling and massage and video meetings, but you've actually got to do it yourself. And you've got to have that determination, not because someone's telling you to do it all the time. There is parts of that, but that self-determination is also going to lead to people doing it and wanting to do it far greater than someone telling them to do it all the time.
And it separates the sheep from the goats. The ones who really want it will float to the surface, and
they will. Yep.
Hey, tell me, and this is self-interest now, but because I've always wondered around the nutrition side of things, about what you eat when and don't eat both pre and after a game. What's if we talk about your regime, mate? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm a pretty light guy. For people who know my style and my body shape, so I'm fairly thin all over. I'm 183 centimetres and 75 kilos, so there's not much of me. So I was always someone who ate fairly light meals, and that's how I felt at my best. The days of, you know, rocking down to a buffet and having the pastas and the pizzas and stuff, those days are gone in general terms. Players still do that, but it's very much up to ourselves of what we're going to get our best. How I can get my best self on game day. So for me, I wake up in the morning. I've got 3 kids under 7, so I was always up fairly early. I'd always have a coffee and cereal and toast for brekkie. That was normal for me. I'd always just have a small snack mid morning, and if we talk about just say a 4 p.m. game, that's the easiest, most normal for us. I'd always eat 3.5 hours before a game, and it was always just chicken and salad roll, ham and salad roll. I'd have a banana, maybe a muffin or something like that, and a coffee.
Yeah.
And then pre-match, it depends how I was feeling in general, whether it was the start of tournaments with lots of energy or at the end of tournaments where you need a little bit more. I'd have a handful of lollies or a banana or something before a game. So fairly normal for me. And I guess the reason why we're a bit careful with telling people or only having one thing to eat is we played a lot of hockey in India. We played a lot of hockey in Europe. You've got to be able to adapt. So when I want my nice ham and salad roll every single day and I play 20 matches a year in India, I'm going to adapt, my preparation and my lifestyle to what was also available.
Yeah. Good call.
So I guess in some ways, if I had the ultimate day, that would be my ultimate day. Fresh, healthy, fairly lean fairly lean and light meals. But I also know that, I played 5 or 6 major tournaments in India in the last 4 years, so I was never going to get a beautiful ham and salad roll in India. So you just deal with what you've got. You just have to be careful of, what you're eating in your time. But normally 3.5 hours was when I always ate. Some guys ate about 5 hours before, but they were the guys who loved a bigger meal.
Yeah.
And then you had guys who would snack about 4.5 hours before, but then they would snack again an hour before.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest change in my time as an elite athlete in nutrition was the post-match. We got so much more information around what you put into your body after a performance or after high performance or high intensity activities. Also helped your performance the next day.
Yeah, and what was that, mate? Just to share.
So we obviously in different environments we had the protein shakes or similar, but the our nutrition staff would put muffins, peanut butter sandwiches. There's a range of different things in post match that would help us prepare for the next day before a bigger meal that night.
Yeah, awesome. So carving up basically just to recharge the batteries after you've drained it during the game. Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Okay, well, look, sort of bringing it to a head then, a couple of things I'll just touch on briefly. One, there's no doubt for such a prolonged period of time, 15 years plus, your life has been pretty all hockey. It can be a very self-absorbing exercise to really achieve at that exceptional level for so long. It requires the support of a pretty special partner, really, to give you the space to do that. And in your own case with Kelly, and you were sort of 3 kids that were part of that for a period of it. Talk to us about that time, because it would have been pretty tough on Kelly, I'm guessing, particularly when she was living in Perth and her family's back in Queensland, and you were sort of flying around the world playing the game. How did you sort of manoeuvre through that, and how important has Kelly's support been to your success, mate?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely difficult. I think one of the things that really helped Kel and I was that she came from a hockey background. So her brother was Jamie Dwyer, one of, or if not the greatest player of all time in Australia. So I guess Kel in some ways knew, or understood what was required, but she was very, highly influential in my time as an elite athlete. I guess the big parts was that Kel, and most people know this, but we get so much talk around performance and outcomes when we're in an environment, high performance environment, that Kel was good at not doing that when I came home. She also was someone who was so supportive because she loves the game as well, and she wanted, she knew the success that I wanted, but she also knew the success that, Jamie, her brother, wanted, and she could see it daily, what we were doing to try and achieve that. So she kind of put her life on hold, and, I'm very grateful for that, because she had her own career that she could have, wanted to achieve. But for her to be such an important part for me, to leave her friends over in Brisbane, her family in Rocky, and to move to Perth for those 10 years, was, I think she obviously loved it as well. But it's not an easy thing to take your partner away from something that they're very good at or that they're close to. So her, having her around, her understanding of sport and the game was massive for me. And then obviously you get kids and it's a new part of your life. You get a different take on pretty much everything. Yeah. One of the things that kids did for me was it allowed me to differentiate performance and home life much quicker, and I loved that I could have the worst training that I've had in a week, or I lost an international game and I call them and they don't care.
Yeah.
You know, all they wanted to do was kick the soccer ball or, you know, have a walk around or, you know, chase dad around the house or wrestle on the floor.
Yeah.
There was things there that made my time, you know, towards the end of my career really, really nice. And as I said at the start, that mean that I was winning or losing just meant that it was different.
Yeah, well, it just changes perspective. The things that you think are earth-shattering and life-threatening don't sort of pale into comparison when you see a smile on your son or daughter's face. Yeah, which is awesome.
It made me get over performances, you know, poor or great performances much quicker as well, because as I said, they didn't care if I missed every trap during the day. They just, oh, Dad, you're going again tomorrow. Good luck. Oh, Dad, you had a great game, even if I lost. So that really helps.
Awesome, mate. I just want to pivot a little bit now into just talking about leadership over your journey, and in two aspects, because, again, outside looking in, I see someone who initially led by example. So you felt that you had to, and being that perfectionist, you had to show and do everything as the captain of the team. But I saw a transition over that period where, and it's probably most significant when you moved back to Brisbane and still maintained the captaincy. That for me, sort of, I'd see a shift there in saying, okay, well, it's not all about me. Perhaps I can empower others, and I can allow others to grow into leadership themselves by not being there to tell them what to do all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Is that sort of part of your evolution as a leader, do you think? Is that what you saw happening over the growth of having that responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. I think early on in my leadership, I was being the leader who, I guess, had led me previously. You know, early on in my career, it was all about doing more, doing extra, training harder. You know, it was really that lead from the front, like show everyone how to do it and they'll jump on the back of you.
Yeah.
I went through, you know, a flat, I would say, a flat patch in my leadership where I probably was trying to do something different. I was trying to get away from that, but I couldn't. I couldn't let go of the reins. I couldn't let go of the power of, you know, leading from the front and showing and telling people what to do. And that was a disappointing time for me because I knew that I wanted something else, but I couldn't let myself do it.
Yeah.
And then there came the time where, we had the disappointment in Rio in 2016, and then I moved away from the national program, and I knew that I wanted to do it, and it became easier because I wasn't there every day. So I was technically letting it go, you know, by default, by not being in the national program.
Yeah.
But what I got out of that first 6 months of doing that was actually I liked myself far more as a leader, and probably the team got more out of me as a leader as well. It wasn't just a dull, plain message every day. My message had far more punch and vitality because I wasn't just talking and doing everything every day. So I think it's a big challenge. I see it in my workplace now. I see it in other leaders who I work with, who I talk to, is that you want to, when you're put in a position of leadership, people think that you have to do everything.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually think that the best leaders that I see now, or the best leadership when I was doing it at my peak performance of leadership, was actually when I was doing less, and empowering others to do more, to give them more license to be involved, to take charge of their own destiny, to not wait for someone else to tell them what to do, for them to take ownership of things that they were really passionate about.
Absolutely.
And there was a period there where I stifled that growth of some of the players in our team, and you know, that's quite hard to say because you always think that you're doing the right thing. Yeah. And I did. I thought I was doing the right thing by showing them every day, be like me. But what I understand now is that not everyone wants to be like me. Not everyone has to. So became far more, confident and content, I guess, in my leadership style later in my career.
That's awesome, mate. Great learnings there. And it's an affliction that I suffer from because the almost closet control freak that comes hand in hand with being a perfectionist. Because you want everything to be perfect, can get in the way, and we do what's called a keep start session regularly with our team. It's a 360-degree exercise, and the constant feedback I get is, Bushy, just let it go. Just get out of the road. Just set the vision and get out of the road. We'll make it happen because we love your vision. We support what you're doing, but you don't need to do it all, mate.
Yeah. It's very, very, very important, isn't it?
Big learning. Mate, awesome journey, some sensational learnings out of what you've shared with us already, but I want to jump into what I affectionately refer to as the ambush round or the bushfire lightning round, mate, where I'm sort of going to get you to machine gun dance to a couple of quick questions.
Sounds good.
Mate, what's your favourite quote and why?
My favourite quote would be, have the courage to succeed. The reason why is in 2004, when I was very much, just coming into a program, I didn't know, that I wanted to do it. I didn't know how to do it. But my idol at the time, Michael Voss, Brisbane Lions, he signed a poster for me right before the Athens Olympics, and he said, "Dear Mark, good luck in Athens. Have the courage to succeed."
Love it.
And he was the guy who I wanted to be like through that Lions era of domination there. Country kid. I grew up just wanting just to bash blokes and just to be the leader he was. And then for him to sign that, I've held on to that.
I reckon you've held on to it so closely you've tattooed it on your ribs, I think, mate, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I got it tattooed straight on my ribs in 2005, straight after. That's how much I love him.
Love it, mate. Love it. Love it. That's a constant reminder, mate. That's awesome. Mate, what about a top book that you'd recommend people read and why?
Oh, I've got two books that I love. One that I read a number of years ago called Luck by the cricket writer Ed Smith. It's just an amazing book. I actually don't know why I love it so much, but I've read it about 3 times, and I just find the stories just fascinating. I've never really thought much about luck in elite sport, but there was just some stories there that I either didn't know much about or I thought just, wow, how does that happen? Maybe that did play a part.
Okay.
So that's a separate book. The book that I'm reading at the moment, which I think is pretty much where my life's at, is Raising Boys by Steve Biddulph.
Yeah, that's
I'm just trying to learn more about being a father and a better role model, and how to understand and speak to my kids. I have 7.5 and a 4.5-year-old boys and a 3-year-old girl. So I'm very much in my, my parenting and my relationship phase far more than a high performance phase anymore.
Yeah, it's a great book. It was instrumental for me early on when my son's now 25, but it really take home for me was just how important the male role model is in this day and age, and what we need to be doing just to really instill the right sort of approach to life at an early age, mate. So awesome reading.
It is.
And the luck thing exercise, I'll have a look. I haven't read that one, but you talk about luck, and it gives me a great excuse to talk about one of my most favourite memorable moments of you, mate. And this is the aerial overhead goal where you lifted the ball just before half time, and then Gowers just smacked it in the circle. And while everyone looked at Gowers as the hero, I looked at you because your ability to read the play and then loft the ball into the perfect spot to allow him to knock that in. That wasn't luck, mate. That almost looked like a prepared move. Was that something that had been in training, or you just read the moment?
Yeah, not really. I will tell you the story very quickly. The day before we were playing against Spain in the World Cup, it was match 2 of the World Cup, and we were absolutely amazing at this tournament against Spain, who are a big rival of ours. And about 25-30 seconds before halftime, we had the ball, and myself and the other couple of defenders just passed it around. and the siren went for half-time, 3-0 up against Spain. We walked into the dugouts and Rick just tore shreds off me in front of everyone, or to me, but in terms of the team. He said, "This is just rubbish. 30 seconds to go. Why wouldn't you try and score a goal? You're passing the ball around at the back," because we were all high-fiving, shaking hands, fist-pumping that we were 3-0 up at half-time against Spain.
Yep.
And Rick didn't like it. He wanted more. And you wouldn't believe the next day, 30 seconds to go or 25 seconds to go, that ball came out to me. And I looked around at the clock as it was rolling out to me, and it was like 24, 23, 20, 19, 17, 15. I had the ball, and I thought to myself, I got to get rid of this ball because I don't want Rick to go off again. So I saw just a group of players, and all I was trying to do, I thought, I'll bomb this in. So I went beautifully over everyone, and Kizza, beautiful touch. But that's really the reason, honestly, mate. I practiced the overheads a lot, but all I wanted was to not get a spray from Rick again.
Well, mate, it was a magic moment. The number of times I replayed that, and it was just like, that was just incredible to watch. So,
it was.
Awesome, mate. Now, this one's a bit left field, but it's a question that all of the audience continues to ask because most Australians feel like they pay too much tax. So what's the top legal thing that you've done to pay less tax, mate? As a hockey player, you wouldn't pay much tax, I don't think, because you don't earn enough, but I'm being facetious now. But what are the things that you've picked up along the road?
I think just my wife's an accountant, but I think just negative gearing. We had a rental property. I think that was the thing that offset some of our tax. As you said, there wasn't large amounts of money in our account at any stage, so we had to. We were pretty concise on how and what we spent our money on and ways to save it, but I think that was the one for me, the negative gearing. Yeah,
has property been part of the journey for you? I mean, it's a big part of my success. My wife and I built a significant portfolio that now affords us a very luxurious lifestyle and the ability to spend time interviewing fantastic people like yourself.
Great. Lucky you.
Yeah. Is that going to be part of the journey to sustain your lifestyle long term? Where does that fit in?
Definitely. Yeah, my mum's been in real estate for 35 years or more. So I was always interested in it. I bought my first investment property as a 21-year-old in 2005, just a little 2-bed, 1-bath unit in Rockhampton. I had that for a number of years. Cal and I, we bought an investment unit over in Perth early on when we got there and got out just in time. We've got an investment property back in Rocky now, which, is pretty flat with the mining in Queensland. We've had that for about 4 or 5 years and it's not hurting us in any ways, but it hasn't gone through the roof like we would have liked. And we've got our property, our place of residence in Brizzy that we're looking to do some renovation work to, growing family. So we've always been really interested.
Yeah,
I guess the part, one of the biggest things that I've lived by, Kel and I, in our motto of, our life now and even before, was that we have to live within our means. Australians do poorly is, and not everyone, but far too many, I believe, drive a car that we can't afford, live in a house that's too big that we can't afford. And what that does is that makes us work longer hours, and that causes problems in relationships, and divorce rates are going up and mental health is going up. And I honestly feel that, we don't, enough of us don't live within our means. And that's one thing that we've been really clear on for us, is that we don't need a $1.5 million house, to be happy. We need a yard for our kids. We need a soccer and a hockey goal. We need a comfy bed. But we also, we want a camper trailer. We want to go away on school holidays. We want to go 4-wheel driving. The reason, I guess, why property, is an interest, but we won't do it if we can't live within our means to pay it off.
Yeah, I love that, mate. And again, if I look at the parallels in relation to your long-term view of sport and investing in property's no different. I often and always say that success in property is at least a 15-year journey if you're really going to reap the fruit. So you've already secured some pretty good assets that, while Rocky mightn't be performing now because it has been relying on that sort of resources sector, it will do okay long term. And if you hold on to it long term and you've driven your lifestyle around something that's affordable, then you'll definitely bear fruit, mate. So it's interesting that yourself and Kelly, your joint philosophy to pretty much everything you do, by the sounds of things, is taking that long term approach, which is a real key to success, I believe.
Yeah, it is, and we didn't. I think the part that helped or has helped us with that is that there's been no big, peaks or no big lows in our income. We've always stayed fairly flat in an area that we can live on. We know we're not going to. I was never going to get a $400,000 contract like a professional footballer. I was never going to get $1 million sponsor or hundreds of thousands of dollars sponsors. So we've always. We've always worked on a fairly long-term process of chipping away very slowly to get to where we want to get to, knowing that there's not going to be any massive blocks of cash or contracts or sponsors coming in.
Well, you've set yourself up, mate. I applaud you, both yourself and Kelly, for the smarts to recognise that and make that work for you. That's brilliant. Mate, we've touched on this a little bit, but a personal habit that you believe has contributed to your success over the journey so far, what is it?
Oh, I think there's a few things. One thing, back to the money side of things, is we have a credit card for the reasons of just earning points and the ease of not having cash, but we pay it off every single month, the whole amount, not just an instalment. So we very much know where we are at the end of each month. I've also, as I said, Kel's is an accountant. Worked for 10 years in accounting. She's back in accounting now, so we've had a budget. Not a strict spending budget, but a budget that shows every single dollar that's coming in or going out. So that's been really good for us to see that, it takes time for your money to go up, and it goes down really quick if you waste it. So we've had a really good, clear budget, so we know roughly where we're at, and that helps for borrowing, that helps for holidays, that helps for spending, that helps for decision making for us, and by no means would I say we've missed out on anything, but we just know that we have to be careful because we can see it. And probably, the other thing for me is that, probably like hockey, and we've touched on in this last hour or so, but I'm in a position where I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm ambitious, I'm fit, so why not work really hard now? I see my parents now in their very early 60s and they're not working as hard anymore, and I think that's the way you want to do it. I don't want to be working forever, but at a time right now, I'm happy to work hard. I'm happy to take on a little bit of extra, coaching or guest speaking appearances or a flight here or there, to try and get our family, ahead now. While who are fine and who are living well, and my wife's happy in her friendships and the people around her, why not work hard now? I guess, I've learned that through sport, is that very rarely you get something that you really want by skimming the edges or drifting through. So I guess that's a little bit of a philosophy for me. Some people say, geez, Mark, you're way too busy now. I say, yeah, I know, but I've been waiting for 10 years for some of these opportunities. I couldn't do some of these while I was playing, so I might as well drop the high performance hockey and all of the heavy training and pick up something else that I love doing.
Love it, mate. Absolutely love it, mate. Just to sort of bring it to a close, then, if you spoke to, let's say your son, he a few years' time, he's about to leave school, and what would you invest his time, money, and skills in to create his definition of freedom?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one, I guess. From hearing you speak previously, and I guess like freedom, the part that I am understanding more and more, the more experience I get or the older I get, is that freedom isn't just having more money. Freedom for me is or things that make you happy, or things that are enjoyable. So I honestly would say to him, and I say to them now, but be healthy, be active, spend time with your friends, spend time in the community, spend time in nature, and you've got to work hard on whatever you do. I think those things have made me feel like I'm free.
Yeah.
I live a very active, very healthy life, and when I don't, I feel like I'm not the person who I either want to be or I've worked hard to get to. So I guess in some ways, I didn't really talk then about investing or money or stuff like that. But that's the stuff where I can see and feel myself most days be up or be down. And it's not my bank balance. It's normally if I haven't exercised, if I haven't seen my friends for a while, if I haven't been camping, if I haven't gone four-wheel driving, if I haven't taken my wife out for dinner, if I haven't done stuff like that, I feel like I'm going to start tightening up.
100%.
So I just say to him, just have a really great group of friends. Be careful, because it's far more challenging to be a teenager or a young 20-year-old now than what it was when I was 20. So I just say be really careful in the choices you make. And you've got to work hard. I guess I got that out of my father and mother and father and the friends that we hung around, and I hope that he sees that out of Kellen and myself as his parents.
Yeah, it's just it's the underlying message. I think success doesn't come for free, and it doesn't matter what you do. You've got to work hard to do it. It's certainly been my experience, and I 100% agree with you, mate, around investing in the things that are important to you. I think investment, when people use the word investment, they immediately think about property or shares or money.
Yeah.
For me, it's not. It's if I'm like you, if I don't go to the gym in the morning, if I don't sit on the piano for half an hour a day, and I don't invest that time, then I'm a grumpy bastard. And,
that's me.
Yeah, same here, mate. And just clearing the head by doing something physically at the beginning of the day sets my day off, and I've got a smile on my face before I've done anything. And if I don't invest that time, then I'm really letting myself down. So I think that's awesome advice, mate. Awesome advice.
Yeah. And I say that to my wife as well. She said, just be careful how much you're taking on at the moment. Do you need to go for that ride this morning early, 5 o'clock when it's cold? Careful, don't get run down. You're tired at the moment. You got so much work on. I said, Kel, that's the stuff that doesn't make me tired. That's the stuff that the stuff that keeps me going, that makes me feel good. And I know that in some ways it probably does, it does make us a little bit tired, but I come home from those things and having those, I only need 30 minutes. I don't go to gym for hours on end. I only need that spark. And I feel better about what I'm doing and, who I'm working with and how I speak to people. And so I think it is important, definitely.
Absolutely key, I reckon, mate. No, that's been absolutely awesome, mate. Now, what's the future hold for you, mate, in closing? Where to from here for Mark Knowles?
I'm not sure. I've got I have short-term goals about my work. I have longer-term things that I'm interested in doing. I guess at the moment, coming out of elite sport, you actually have to get back into the real world, and being at the top of sport doesn't mean that you'll be at the top of your workplace straight away. So I'm quite comfortable in not being the best at my workplace. The part that I am content with is I love the industry that I work in. I work at the Queensland Academy of Sport with elite athletes, 24 sports, Paralympic, Olympic and Commonwealth sports. Work with about 380 athletes, and we work in everything that's not training or competition. So we're working in community engagement, career and education, mental health and well-being, professional behaviours, personal branding, that kind of stuff. And I absolutely love that I can still work in high performance sport. That's a passion of mine.
Brilliant.
In the future, I guess, or before even that, one of the parts that I'm enjoying at the moment is that I don't work specifically with hockey, so I'm working across those 24 sports, and I'm learning a lot about how different people work, how different sports prepare and talk to their athletes and work with their athletes. So that's been a really great way for me to get multiple levels of access to sports and athletes really quickly. In the future, I think my skill set and my personality and probably where I want to get to is some type of high performing director role. I'm pretty structured in how I work. I feel I have strong connection with people and the ability to make relationships. I'm trustworthy, not afraid to work hard, understand elite sport, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads. So that's probably where I want to get to in the future. But I also understand that there's multiple stepping stones before you get to a position like that. That's where I see my next 5 years, I guess.
Brilliant, mate. And again, I just love the long-term vision and the recognition that it's the next step. As long as you're taking the next step that's taking you closer to that, then you can sort of relax and enjoy the journey, which an important part of it. And the one thing I'll close on, mate, is because I see a lot of elite sportsmen, they retire from the elite level and they stop playing the game. And I go, why are you doing that? If you've spent the best part of your life getting to this point and then you hang up the stick, it's like, I'm 58 and definitely my skill level and speed and everything else has dropped down, but I just love the camaraderie and getting out there on the weekend and running around on the pitch. I wouldn't be who I am without it, mate. So if you're fit enough and your lifestyle allows you to, then keep making a contribution, mate. Your kids will love it and they'll follow in your footsteps. So keep doing what you're doing well, mate. I applaud yourself and the family for your contribution to sport and what you'll do ongoing to really giving people faith in the future and the benefits of working hard. So I really appreciate you spending some time with us today, Mark.
I really appreciate you having me. Thanks very much, and hopefully everyone listening enjoys it. Feel free to get in touch anytime you like, but I love having the ability to share my story. I guess one of the things is that you know it from all the people that you've interviewed. Everybody's story is different, and we will relate to one or two or three things that each people take. I guess for me, just finishing, I love hearing different stories, and I know that I'm not going to be exactly like someone else. But as soon as you stop learning, I reckon we're in deep trouble. And when we think we know everything, the end is near. So I want to just keep learning from as many people as I can, and hopefully the people learning, took a couple of things out of my talk today.
There's a bag of gold out of that conversation, Mark. So I really appreciate your time, mate. It's been just quietly, I'm very excited on the inside because you're someone that I've sort of been wanting to understand more for a long time, and the podcast has given me the excuse, mate. So
that's awesome.
Very humble. Good on you, Knowlesy. Okay.
Thank you very much, Bushy. Have a great day, mate.
Yeah, thanks,
appreciate
mate.
it again.
Cheers. Well, freedom fighters, how good was that? To get a summary of all this investment gold in the show notes, just email me on hello@khgroup.com.au. That's hello@khgroup.com.au. Or check us out at www.bushymartin.com.au/get invested. I look forward to joining you next week for another episode of the Get Invested podcast. So thanks for listening, and as always, dream as if you live forever and live as if you'll die